morning, students. So, in the last class, we ended up with NAM and neutrality, NAM and isolationism, right? Now, there was a question that was put up by you in your doubts that why is Cuban Missile Crisis named as a crisis? So, I believe on your own levels, please be clear with the basics, I believe, right? Look out for the terms in the dictionary, right? These are very basics. Once we are ahead of it, asking absolutely the basic question is why it was a crisis, that's really disappointing. Okay. Now, crisis is basically a time of intense difficulty or danger. That is very obvious, right? And it invites important decisions to be taken. I hope you can relate it with Cuban Missile Incident. Why was it a crisis then? It comes with a number of standoffs between US and USSR that could have led to another world war, and I have very much explained this. The only good thing that were there was the leaders of those countries, US and USSR, who behaved very rationally and responsibly and prevented the war, though they continued with the rivalry. Okay, now that is the reason why it is known as a crisis, because it could have led to another world war. So it was, of course, a time of difficulty and danger. Okay, now let's come to our next topic, that is new international economic order. Now the newly developed countries, they were, especially the non-aligned countries, they were more than mediators, as what I ended up in the arenas of the Cold War, that how they acted as mediators of the Cold War. So they were more than the mediators. The most important challenge for them was development, and that development was mostly related with economic development. A majority of these newly independent countries who were part of non-aligned countries, they were categorized as least developed countries, that is your LDCs. Okay. Now they had to economically work for their development. They had to lift their people out of poverty. So economic development was very, very important for them as far as independence was concerned. Because had they been independent and they were economically dependent on the developed countries, then that was not complete independence, right? You are somewhere or the other dependent on the other countries. So without that development, a country could not be truly free. Now this idea of making the newly independent countries, or let's say just stick to the world least developed countries, independent economically, the idea of NIEO, that is new international economic order, originated. Now, when did it originated? See, basically, new international economic order, it was a set of proposals that was put forward during 1970s by some of the developing countries. Though this United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, this brought the report in 1972 entitled Towards a New Trade Policy for Development. And this report proposed a reform of the global trading system. So basically, UNCTAD, that is United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, it brought that report in order to promote the interest of the developing countries by improving their terms of trade, increasing development assistance, developed countries' tariff reductions, and other means. So this was basically reviewing of the economic system in favor of the third world countries. And this global trading system, that was there. Global trading system is international trade. Okay, this was proposed for the least developed countries in order to give them control over the natural resources that were exploited by the developed nations, obtaining access to Western markets, reducing the cost of technology, greater role in the international economic institutions, and that is how the goal at that particular time in front of NAM was economic development. So NAM emerged as economic pressure group. Right. Now when I call it economic pressure group, it clearly tells you that NAM was working, or they were promoting and working on their common interest to develop their economy. When you are working as a group, when you promote and work on your common interest, then that is how you become a pressure group. So they were becoming, NAM countries were becoming economic pressure group. Clear? But due to various reasons, NIEO failed. Now what were the reasons? See, basically you should remember few things, that underdeveloped countries had less power. There were disparities, there were differences, there were divergent interest among the member states. And so there was lack of commitment, there was lack of political will. Number two, after 5 years of adoption of NIEO, there was no structural changes that were observed. There was refusal by developed countries to implement the NIEO resolution, one of the most important reasons why NIEO did not work. So that is how NIEO was brought into the world, but it could not become successful. Okay, now gradually NIEO failed and its relevance was somewhere not realized. Okay, I hope this topic is clear. Let's come to your next topic. Your next topic is India and the Cold War. How has India responded to the Cold War? Now, India's role in Cold War is still controversial, especially India's stand with NAM. See, for most of the part, we were just spectators and we didn't take real interest in the Cold War. We did not take part in the Cold War. However, we did play a major role with non-aligned movement in our own ways. So India's response to Cold War was twofold. Number one, we stayed away from the alliances. Okay, and number two, we did raise voice against the newly decolonized countries who were becoming part of the alliances, because we wanted these countries to focus on their development. Because these countries who were newly decolonized were already weak. So instead of choosing alliances, it's better that they work on their own economy. Right? So non-alignment at that point of time, Pandit Nehru, he very clearly reminded the world that non-alignment was not a policy of fleeing away. Because India is not hidden somewhere, India is not hiding itself, India is neither fleeing away, but it is just staying away from the war. Whereas, on the contrary, India was in favor of actively intervening in the world affairs to soften the Cold War rivalries. And India did that. It has worked to reduce the differences between the alliances. I have discussed it earlier also, how India played the role of a mediator. Right? Now, Indian diplomats and leaders were often used to communicate and mediate between the Cold War rivals, such as in Korean War. Now, if you see as a group how it has taken place, then you must remember that India chose to involve other members of the non-aligned group in the mission as well. and it repeatedly tried to activate many of the regional international organizations which were not a part of the alliances, posing great faith in the Commonwealth of free and cooperative nations. And that is how it tried to soften the Cold War rivalries. And therefore, if you try to see it very deeply, then non-alignment was just not a noble international cause where India was not utilizing its own interest. No, India was definitely trying to clear out its own interest. How? Number one, non-alignment allowed India to take international decisions and stances that could serve its interest. Very smartly, India stayed away from the war, the Cold War. Every time I try to say stayed away from the war, please make it clear it is Cold War I'm talking about. Okay. But at the other side, when needed, India did take its own interest. India was often able to balance one superpower against the other, and if India felt ignored or pressurized by one superpower, it simply tilted towards the other. And at that point of time, India was very important as a country, geographically, strategically. And that is why neither alliance system could take India for granted at that time. So India's policy of non-alignment has been criticized. Your question should be how? Right. If we all talk about the criticisms of India's position of NAM, it has been criticized. India's non-alignment was said to be unprincipled because in the name of pursuing its own interest, India refused to take a firm stand on many of the crucial international issues. India was not able to make a difference which side is right. Why? Because India had to serve its own interest. What is that interest? Development, weapons. And India, that particular time, it is suggested that India was inconsistent. It took contradictory postures, saying that I am not getting aligned with any of the countries and signing the Treaty of Friendship in August 1971 with USSR for 20 years. Now, outside observers who were there, they could, even we are talking about India being principled, not aligning with any of the alliances. But when you see India signing a treaty of friendship in August 1971 with USSR, we will call NAM unprincipled. So Indian government's view was that India needed diplomatic and possibly military support during the Bangladesh crisis, and that in any case the treaty did not stop India from having a good relations with other countries including the US. So isn't that diplomatic stand? And Indo-Soviet ties did begin to open up, especially in the context of Moscow Economic Conference organized in April 1952, to which India sent one of the largest delegations present. Now that's a different information I'm giving you outside your book. Just to make it clear that yes, India's stand was criticized. And if you see it as an observer, you will also try to analyze that. But despite all these demerits that were there, with non-alignment. If you see non-alignment both as an international movement and as the core of the India's foreign policy, then even if NAM lost some of its earlier relevance and effectiveness, non-alignment contained some core values and enduring ideas. It was based on a recognition that decolonized states do share same history and they can become a powerful force if they come together. It meant that poor and often very small countries do not always become followers. They can go for an independent foreign policy. And since UN had come, then there was no fear of security. It was just to democratize the international system by thinking about an alternative world order to readdress the existing inequities. NAM was the first one to raise its voice against inequalities. And if you talk about independent foreign policy, then at that point of time, apart from US and USSR, NAM came up as an independent foreign policy strongly facing US and USSR, the two so-called superpowers of that time, right? So India has, and NAM has proved itself at that time, sorry. Okay. Now this was criticism of India's stand. What was India's stand in the Cold War? Okay, I hope this part is clear, and hence your chapter comes to an end. Now there are few questions that will be given to you as analytical questions. You will try to write the answers on your own. If there is a problem, you let me know. I'll give you the key points of the answers, okay, so that you can elaborate on that with the help of the book, of course. All right, and then we can discuss upon it if needed. Okay, now let's come to the maps explanation. There are two maps given in this chapter. Map number one here basically shows the division of European countries into rival alliances during the Cold War. You see the NATO members are with US and members of Warsaw Pact were with USSR. It's very clearly given here. The other communist countries were part of neither of the alliances supporting NAM. Okay? Whereas countries marked as others such as Austria, Sweden, they all chose neutrality. Okay? I'm very clear which country supported which of the ideas. Okay, map 2 mentions about this part, first world. Now first world are those countries that were highly developed capitalist countries with United States, Portugal, France, UK, etc. Second world were the government regulated socialist economies led by USSR, China, Germany. These were led by USSR, okay, and the examples would be China, Germany, etc. Lastly comes your third world, and they were the newly independent countries of Asia and Africa, where you can see in India, Indonesia, Egypt, etc. Okay. Last comes the cartoons given in your chapters. Now each cartoon of each and every chapter is very important from examination point of view. Now cartoon number 1. Here you can see China. This particular person is basically China. Sorry. This particular person is China. Now China's alliance with US. Here China is shaking hands with US for development and promotion of trade. Okay, it expresses the end of China's political and economic isolation and its secret relationship with US. It tells you that China started making relationships secretly with US and kept USSR in dark about the relationship. If you remember, they had territorial differences, right? So it is about that particular time when China developed territorial differences with USSR that it started aligning itself with United States. Okay, now the second cartoon here is about Vietnam War, if you remember, right? This shows the wrong move made by America in case of Vietnam in conflict between North and South Vietnam, where America was worried that communist forces would gain power, so it entered the war thinking to eat up Vietnam here. Okay, but US intervention led to great lot of lives of the people, especially the Americans, right? And US was not able to achieve its objectives, rather it faced oppositions from Americans itself, and that is why you can see the cartoon, which was this crab, this whatever this animal you can term it as. Now this particular thing, it is now a headache for this president, okay, and it is biting him only, right? So his wrong move is making him face the repercussions. Okay, I hope the cartoons are clear. Now this brings me to the end of your chapter 1. In the next class we'll start with chapter 2. Hence, if you face any problem, please let me know. All right, thank you.